time to go on the record. And just when you think it can't get any crazier.
Oh, shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You damn well knew I was a snake before you took me in.
The GOP presidential candidates head to New York.
On the Democratic side of the presidential race, can Clinton keep her lead on track?
New Hampshire Senator Kelly Ayotte prepares to meet with Judge Merrick Garland. How President Obama's SCOTUS choice complicates her challenge by Governor Manky Hassan. And Doug Rubin, a political force here in the Bay State, is our guest on OTR this morning.
From WCVB Boston, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill, today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ed Harding, along with our political reporter here at News Center 5, Janet Wu. Thank you for joining us on OTR. Democrat political strategist Doug Rubin is here at the round table with us today. He has risen in Bay State political circles, advising such Democrats as Governor Deval Patrick, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Joe Kennedy. Rubin is also a founding partner at Northwind Strategies, where he also does business and communication strategies. Happy spring.
Thank you for having me.
Where we've had snow and cold and whatever the whole time.
It's New England.
It's New England. You get used to it.
But we have the best of politics
We
with
have the
us
best
still,
of
don't
politics.
we?
That's right.
So let's start with your party. Yet Republicans are in disarray. There's no question about it. But if you look at what's going on with your party, especially if you look at the results of the most recent caucuses and primaries, do you see a scenario where Bernie Sanders could win this nomination?
Look, I think that there's still an opportunity for Sanders to pull this off. I think New York is really the place where this will come to a head. And if Sanders is able to pull the upset in New York, then I think that changes the media narrative in the race. If he's not, then I think the math and the delegate count works in Hillary Clinton's favor.
So New York is sort of the pivotal point for Bernie Sanders, you
I
think?
do, and I think because New York is a closed primary, because it's Hillary Clinton's home state where she represented in the U.S. Senate, if Sanders were able to pull off the victory there, that does change the dynamics in this race.
Is this the reason why your former client, or I should say probably your current client, still Senator Elizabeth Warren, is still sitting on the sidelines?
I think the reason that she is doing what she's doing is because she's having a major impact on this race. She has, I think, pushed the debate in areas that she cares about around income inequality and economic development. And she's done that not just on the Democratic side. You have candidates like Ted Cruz who are talking about these issues on the Republican side. She's had a major impact on this race.
So
and I
she's
think
not
because,
waiting for a winner or an obvious winner?
I think what she's doing is she's trying to push this race into an areas that she cares about and make sure those issues are focused on. She's done a great job on that.
Is it out of respect for Senator Sanders, a colleague in the Senate who's still in the race and still there and won 7 of the last 8 contests?
I think if you know Senator Warren, she's the most mission-driven person I work with. She cares about these issues. It's an agenda she's been working on, not just in the Senate, but before that. And she's doing what she thinks is best to forward those issues.
Let's talk about Donald Trump. If he does win the nomination, that's still a question because he hasn't hit the number yet and we haven't gone to the convention, blah, 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 blah. But is he a Democrat's dream come true, Donald Trump? Just Donald Trump, the candidate?
I think that it's a mistake to underestimate Donald Trump, and I think the Republicans have been making that mistake consistently, and that's why he's in a situation where he's leading the Republican field. I think whether you like Trump or not, and I definitely don't agree with anything Trump says, he has touched on something, kind of an anger and frustration in the electorate that is very real, and people who ignore that will be at their peril. I think it's really important to acknowledge that and try to put forward probably more effective plans than Trump can do to deal with that issue.
But might it be fair to say that he perhaps has stalled?
I think there's been rumors of his demise along the trail at multiple points. I think he's going to have a really good week in New York, and I think he's going to have momentum coming out of that. And then the states following New York seem to favor him and don't favor Cruz. So I think it's premature to say he's stalled.
You said that the anger is what he's tapped into. A lot of people would say Bernie Sanders did too. What has made Trump more successful than Bernie Sanders? Which is not to say that Bernie Sanders is, out of the game, but he certainly hasn't, been able to be as successful as Trump up to now.
Well, look, I think I'm not sure I buy that premise because Trump is in a multi-candidate race and has now kind of gotten up above 50% in places, whereas Sanders has kind of won in a number of places over 50% and has really mobilized a big chunk of Democratic primary. But I think what both candidates have realized is that there is a large swath of this economy, people in this economy who are feeling that they're not getting ahead, who are falling farther and farther behind and feel like the political system has abandoned them. And those people, I think that's what's fueling both Trump and Sanders voters in a large extent.
Let's go to a local issue. Bostonians are pretty wary of new things, as you know. You're among those who could not convince them to buy into the Boston Olympics, while a sports venue and a company aren't exactly the right thing. The public relations battle is sort of very similar, wouldn't you say? So what's your advice to GE, which got a pretty sweet deal from both the state and the city?
Well, I think they took a really positive first step this week where they announced the $50 million that's going to go to the city and to help schools. That's a really important first step. It's really important, particularly in Boston, And Massachusetts, which has a history of kind of good corporate kind of citizenship, for them to kind of fit in and do that. So that was a great first step. But I also think it's incumbent upon the governor and the administration to explain to the people why this outlay of money to bring GE there works for the state. And I think there's a case to be made. But there are decisions that were impacted by that choice, and that's part of the debate that has to happen.
Do you think you understand all the details of exactly where this money is going to go and whether it benefits people?
I don't think anybody understands all the details to this point. There are still some details to be learned about kind of the rent-free deal that they have and how much money is actually going to go to infrastructure. I've seen numbers from 120 million to 250 million in terms of the infrastructure investments. And I think that has to be worked out, and that's what our elected leaders will have to.
Although Marty Walsh has said that it's not going to be rent-free, but we still are looking for the exact details of what that means.
I agree, but I think at the state level, we're operating in a budget scenario here under Governor Baker where we have a limited amount of revenue, and revenue options have been taken off the table. And so when you make a decision to expend this amount of money to bring GE, which may or may not be a good decision, other things get left behind. For example, Brockton, City of Brockton, which really could need this development. There was an important development project there with public higher ed. That gets left off the table and was actually taken off the table because of this deal.
Yeah, but GE is a big fish. You know what I mean? It's General Electric. It's not George Edgar Company. It's General Electric. That's it. You know.
It's great that Massachusetts and Boston was able to do it. I commend the mayor and the governor for getting them there, and I think this is a really important opportunity. But I think we have to have a sincere conversation about what the trade-offs are when you do things.
Yeah.
But do you think they're going to have a little bit of a battle at convincing Bostonians that they're good guys?
Look, I think that they may, but I do think the fact that they've come and chosen Boston as kind of their flagship and that they recognize the talents that we have in the city and the workforce and the education systems we have here, I think that's good for Boston and good for Massachusetts.
Are you ready for the OTR pop quiz?
I'm never ready, but I'm give it a go.
Tell us what your daughter said about the OTR pop quiz before.
My daughter said she's doing very well in school, and she said she's going to watch and see how I do on this quiz.
What's your daughter's name?
Jordan.
Okay, Jordan, you ready? Here goes Daddy. Right, here's question 1. What former GOP presidential candidate defended Donald Trump's abortion gaffe by saying that he wasn't warned the question was coming? It's a former GOP presidential candidate defending Donald Trump's abortion gaffe.
I don't know. Ben Carson?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
See, Jordan?
See, Jordan? If you don't know, act like you know.
That's right.
Question 2. Which presidential candidate told a nationwide TV audience this past week that the rough nature of politics requires an abundance of moisturizing cream?
Oh, that I don't know.
Think of the last sentence. Moisturizing cream, perhaps. No, Hillary Clinton on The View. You're 1 for 1. Stay with us.